Good morning. Welcome. We're so glad you're here with us this morning. My name is Reverend Sally Robbins, and I am the minister of the day, so to speak. I'll be your guide this morning through our service, and I'll be your speaker. And we're just so glad you're here with us. Our mission here at Unity of Charlotte is to provide, to nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. I'm Reverend Sally Robbins, as I said before, and I'm so glad you chose to join us here today, either on YouTube, via the live stream, however you're joining us. We're just so glad you're making us a part of your day. So let's start today's service by sharing our statement of oneness, and let that lead us into our opening prayer. Our statement of oneness is right there. So if you don't mind, just say that with me or just take it in, whichever works for you. There is one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God, the good omnipotence. And I'll start with just an opening prayer just to bring us into that indwelling presence of God. So I invite you, if you're comfortable, just close your eyes. Let's take a deep breath in and let it out. Another cleansing breath in and let it out. The very breath of life, the very breath of God, that is the access to the portal of that indwelling presence. Simply by breathing in God, breathing out love. Breathing in God, breathing out joy. Breathing in love, breathing out compassion. I invite us today to recognize and acknowledge that we truly have a spiritual mission on this planet. That we are here to be open to the guidance we receive from that indwelling presence. That guidance that is always telling us that we are the hands and feet of God. We are the mouthpiece of God. We are the mind of God. We are the compassion of God. And as we take our place in this world, being of service to that indwelling presence, I know that we can never make a mistake. As we listen to that voice within, it never steers us wrong. It always leads us to a place of deep knowing. And the more we access it, the more easily it comes into focus for us. And so I know that this morning is good and very good, that each one of us is bringing the very best of ourselves into this conversation about that indwelling presence. I know if there's anyone out there who is hurting this morning, maybe there's some financial dealings that you're going through, maybe there's a health issue that you're going through, or maybe a loved one has a health issue. Let's just set that aside for right now and be open and available to the guidance that God is always at hand. God is always in charge. God is always right here and right now. And as we lean into that trust, we know that if his eye is on the sparrow, it certainly is on us. And so I absolutely surrender this morning to that indwelling presence, knowing that as I do so, I am open and available to all the good, to all the guidance, to all the mystery of what it means to be a modern mystic in today's society. I know that everyone joining me in this live stream and on this video are joining me in that acknowledgement now, that they are here for a purpose, that they are here with a mission from God, and that all is unfolding exactly as it should. So I bless our time together this morning, and I simply say thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for all that is and all that is yet to be. For this we are forever grateful. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. So thank you for joining us online. And we are so privileged this morning to have in our midst the Sultan of Swing, the Sultan of Music, the gentleman who just lights us up whenever he sings, Mr. Lawrence Tolliver.
Thank you, Reverend Sally. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of love. You are the face of peace. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of peace. You are the face of joy. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of joy. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. Oh, such a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are the face of love. You are the face of peace. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of peace. You are the face of joy. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. Oh, such a wonderful face. Oh, my family.
Thank you, Lawrence. That was fabulous. A wonderful song by Karen Drucker. And Lawrence will be performing a second song by Karen Drucker at the end of the service. Thank you. That song always gets me. I come to close to tears whenever I hear that song. It's just beautiful. All right. So, let's move back to our April affirmation. So you'll be able to see that on our screen here. Let's say that together. Today I am reborn to my timeless self. Trusting in my Creator, I renounce my belief in loss and death. I step past my self-created fears and claim my true life. I am spirit, eternal and unlimited. Today I am reborn to my timeless self. Oh, April. Can you believe it's the last Sunday in April? Next week is May. This has just been a month that has whipped on by. So we're very grateful for all that has happened in the month of April, even though it's probably been the most unusual April we've ever had. Would you agree? I think all of us can relate to that. So I'm going to talk today about the end of the story. That's the title of my talk this morning. And the reason I chose that title is we all have a story, right? We all have something that we have claimed is our story. Once upon a time, way back in 1958 when I was born, and we all have something similar to that, where we have a story. And I want to tell you a true story of something that happened to me where I realized I was very stuck in a story. This happened several years ago, probably 10 years ago now. I was seeing a chiropractor at that time. I lived in Maryland. I had a church in Columbia, Maryland. And so I was seeing a chiropractor pretty much every week, but that I was about to go out of town. And I said to him, I really want to get an adjustment right before I go out of town. Is it possible for me to come on, I think it was a Tuesday? He said, sure, but I've got everything booked up until then. So you'll have to come at 7:30. I said, great. I was just so grateful that he made time in his schedule for me. So I show up that evening at the appointed time at 7:30, and I get out of my car and walk up to the building, and the door is locked. And I was really mystified. I looked at my watch. Yep, it's 7:30. And I thought, oh my God, he forgot about me. He forgot that we had an appointment. And I could feel the frustration and anger starting to rise in me because I had come all this way to have this appointment. So I get in my car and I called my friend because misery loves company, right? We always want to have somebody who joins in on that story. And I called her and I said, you're not going to believe this. I just made this trip and I was supposed to meet my chiropractor at 7:30 and he's not there. And I was pulling out of the parking lot, literally, as I'm talking to her. And she said, Sally, it's not quite 7:30. It's like 7:29. He might still be coming. Oh, I hadn't thought about that aspect. And so I thought, okay. I turned my car around and parked in the parking space. And not 30 seconds later, in comes my chiropractor. He drives up, hops out of his car. Hi, how you doing? Have you had a good day? I felt about this small because of the things I had been thinking about that man. And here he was, again, making time in his day, and I had jumped to a completely wrong conclusion about what had happened. As I'm walking in with him into the office, he says, oh yeah, he had a second office, which was 45 minutes away. And he said, normally I just work in that office and then drive home because it's closer. He lived an hour away. He said, but since you needed, to have this appointment before you left out of town, I drove back. And then I felt like even really smaller because I realized this man not only made time for me, he had driven way out of his way, 45 minutes. Now he had an hour to drive home. It was a sobering moment for me because I realized I had gotten caught in a story that was completely made up in my head. Have you ever had that experience where something that you think is happening is not the truth at all? So the truth was I had gotten the story wrong. and that the universe was lovingly providing me with everything I needed and wanted and had asked for, I was not available to it until someone I would have driven off, and then he would have come and wasted all of his time. So I was so grateful for my friend saying, Sally, take a moment, take a breath. Is this the real truth? And it wasn't. It wasn't the truth. So have you ever found yourself in a similar situation where your story is driving the narrative in your head? And I know that many times I have got to that place where I actually will script it out, and I'll start going, well, then he's going to say this, and then I'm going to say this, and then he'll say this, and then I'll say this. And I absolutely get worked up over nothing. And then it turns out it wasn't necessary at all. I was already practicing how I was going to talk to him when I thought he wasn't showing up. Oh, I'm just so grateful that my friend got me back to center and to a place of reason. So I must admit, I've done this more times than I care to admit. And you see, we can have a story that we've made up, and we can stay with that story for years about how someone may have mistreated us, how maybe someone betrayed us, how maybe this didn't happen for us when we thought it would and should. But we have the choice to rewrite the script. And more importantly, we have the choice to let it go, to let go of whatever is holding us back from the reality that we're always present in this moment with an unwritten script in front of us that we get to write. We're the producer, the director, the writer, the actor, everything. We get to choose. Story, any kind of story, can keep us stuck in the past. I love what the Buddha had to say about this. He says, you will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger. That is so true, absolutely true. And so I know that there are times when I have had an absolute, I've been stuck so deeply that I didn't even see that there was a way out. That's what I want us to talk about today, which certainly can apply to some of the things that we're going through at this moment. As of this taping today, we are still in the midst of the pandemic. I am speaking to 5 people here in the room, keeping our social distancing and doing what the state has asked us to do, which is not have a gathering of more than 10 people, which is why I hope many of you are watching us online. But we are in the midst of a lot of fear. We are in the midst of a lot of panic even. And we're in the midst of a lot of people deciding that their story is not one that they want to hear. And so they're actually trying to have some differing ideas about it. So many times we have to look beyond the physical to see with our spiritual eyes. That's what I invite us to do this morning. Instead of looking with our physical eyes, that we can, what we can see, taste, smell, touch, hear, those are the things that we can rely on. And yet this morning, I'd invite us all to take a step further into how can we look, because we are multi-sensory beings. It's not just those 5 senses that we have, but we all have a set of an intuition. We all have a way of picking up information, even without those 5 senses, if we allow it to. And that's where we move into our spiritual eyes, not our physical eyes, but our spiritual eyes, that third eye above our 2 eyes that can actually tune in and receive that guidance, receive the divine urge of what it is we're here to do, and how we can let go of what a story that has kept us stale and dormant for far too long. I have a wonderful story that I want to share with you. It comes from the book, Who Ordered This Truckload of Dung? By Ajahn Brahm. This is the title story from this. And he says, imagine you've had a wonderful day at the beach. You've had a fantastic day lying on the sand, soaking up the sun. You're relaxed. You're feeling so good, and you head home. And as you pull into your driveway, you see that someone has dumped a truckload of dung right in front of your door. you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Who would have done such a thing? But of course, you have no way of knowing. No one, the neighbors didn't see anybody. And so now you're dealing with a truckload of dung that's sitting in the front of your front door. It's filthy, it's offensive, it smells, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I can't call someone to take this away because I don't know who dumped it. And this is a metaphor because there are three things that you know about this truckload of dung. Number one, you did not order it, so it's not your fault. Number two, you're stuck with it. No one saw who dumped it, and you can't tell someone to take it away. Number three, it's filthy and offensive, and the stench fills your whole house. It's impossible to endure. So the metaphor that I alluded to, the metaphor of tragedies and things that come into our life that we did not, quote unquote, order, that we did not call in to our life, or so we think. These are things that sometimes we feel are things that are too much for us to endure as well. Those three things are also correct about them. Number one, we did not order it. It's not our fault. Number two, we're stuck with it. No one can take it away for us. Number three, it's so awful and its pain fills our whole life. It's almost impossible to endure. I've certainly been in those life situations where I really thought, oh my goodness, how can I ever get through this? I saw no way out. And I think that's those of us on the spiritual path, that's the chaos that comes into our life to disrupt the pattern and allow us to create anew. So there are two ways of responding to the truckload of dung or the trauma that comes into our lives. The first way, if we're dealing with this truckload, is we carry around the dung with us. We put it in our pockets, we stuff it down our pants, we put it in our shirts, and all that is just it's allowing us to just get even more stinky. And that's a metaphor for us sinking into a depression, negativity, or even anger around what's happening to us. It's a natural and understandable response to adversity. There's a lot of us who are experiencing grief, loss, and even pain right now, especially if we have those of us who know people who are going through this illness, this virus. And some of my friends have lost loved ones to this virus. We can't deny that there is pain, there is sadness, there is grief, there is loss. But what I'm asking you to possibly consider is a second way. When the truckload of dung is dumped in front of our home, we sigh. We go, okay, guess I got some work to do. Guess I better go get the shovel and the wheelbarrow. And you start putting some of the dung into the wheelbarrow, and then you wheel it around to the back of your house, and you see, okay, I'm going to put a flower garden over here, and I put some of this. It'll be nice fertilizer for it. And so you do a little bit every day, and you start taking that dung and incorporating it into the beauty of your outside home. This is tiring and difficult work because you gotta pitch that stuff in there, and then you gotta take the wheelbarrow, and you're definitely exhausted by the end of the day. But what else can you do? There's no other option. So day after day, we dig into the dung. The pile gets smaller, and finally the day comes when the dung is gone. And something miraculous has happened at our home. We look around and we see beautiful flowers where there never were before, who are getting nourishment from this dung. Our home is actually now smelling beautiful with the wafting scent of these flowers coming into our home. And the passersby on the street are remarking to us, what a beautiful home you have. I love how it just lights up the neighborhood, and it smells so beautiful here. Because we were willing to do the work, we were able to transmute something that was smelly and dirty into something that has become beautiful, something that has become a part of us that we can now offer to the rest of the world. So Ajahn says this, digging in the dung is a metaphor for welcoming the tragedies as fertilizer in our life. Isn't that beautiful? That's the fertilizer for our life. It is work we have to do alone. No one can help us here, but by digging into the garden of our heart day by day, the pile of pain gets less and less and less until it is gone. Right now, you may have a story that you're telling to yourself. You may have a story that you're like, Reverend Sally, you don't know what I've been through. Let me tell you, this is a story that won't go away. You may be right. What I'm offering here is a way for you to reframe what has happened. A possibility for us to look beyond, again, the physical that has happened in our lives to the metaphysical, beyond the physical, with our spiritual eyes. Wow, what great fertilizer I've been given. What an opportunity for me to grow. Sometimes life is hard. I'm not telling you to ignore facts. Sometimes life is hard. But I'm also sure of one thing, that you are a divine being. You are a divine being who has purpose and meaning. You are a divine being who is not here by accident. You are a divine being that has someone and something in your life that allows you to blossom and gift the world. The fact that you are a divine being is more than enough. It's more than enough. Now is the time to do your work. We've had almost 6 weeks as of this airing. We've had almost 6 weeks of interrupted pattern, where most of us have self-quarantined. Most of us are pretty tired of it. Most of us are ready to get back into the quote unquote normal, whatever that new normal might be. And we know that we are following all the state guidelines. The governor of North Carolina has not allowed us to reconvene, and we won't do that until everything is safe and we have an opportunity for this sanctuary to be a home that you can feel good about coming back to. And yet, because we have a chance, some of us are still working, we still have a chance because there's less distractions in our life. We still have a chance to do the inner work that we're here to do. We still have a chance to take that dung that still might be, we may have stuffed it all the way down into our pockets in our shirts, and it's been there for so long we've probably even forgotten about it. This is a chance for all of this to come up for healing. This is a chance for us to do the inner work that is ours and ours alone to do. No one else can do this for us. I love this quote from Mother Teresa. She says, "I'm a little pencil in God's hands." And that's what we get to rewrite our story. We get to rewrite what it is that we're here to do. And if we are not doing our inner work, if we're not doing that hard, self-reflective chance to go in and do what is ours to do, John of the Cross said, you cannot find the light of God unless you're willing to go into the darkness of God. Because there are times in our life that are dark. And there are times in our life when we have to dig in the dung. And there are times in our life when it's smelly and messy and offensive, but we get to do it. That's ours to do. And maybe, just maybe, there's a chance I know right now there's a huge opportunity that I have uncovered for me to do more forgiveness work. People that I thought I was done with, people that I thought they're in my past, I've let them go, my work is done there. Guess what? They've come back up in my contemplation, and I go, oh, might have a little more work to do. Might have an opportunity to go even deeper this time. Maybe there's more layers of the onion that I still have to peel off. So I invite you, as you're contemplating this week and going into your meditation and your reflective prayer, is there something that I need to do? Ask yourself that question. Ask the God within you, is there something that is mine to do? And then, by all means, get about doing it. Because the more we listen to that voice and then do what that voice is asking, that is always the path to our greater good. Always. So how do you know when your story is over? Because there are many times I've thought, that's done, complete, it's clean, I've tied it up in a bow, it's done. And sometimes that happens where it never ever comes up in my life again. But how do I know that the story is over? If I'm alive, it isn't. to quote Richard Bach, how do we know if our life on earth, our purpose is done? If you're alive, it isn't, he says. And so I know that even when I think it's done, there may be things down there that are still seeking expression and love, for me to love that part of me that has shut down, maybe, or even cut somebody out of my life. I heard Michael Beckwith say once, I never want to cut anyone out of my heart. And that's a powerful statement, because there's a difference between saying, I don't wish to be in that person's presence anymore, that it's not healthy for me to be in that person's presence, and I want nothing to do, that person is out of my life, finished, done. When you're cutting someone out of your heart with no possibility of compassion and no possibility of getting down into the deeper layers, maybe that's the opportunity we have here with COVID-19. Maybe that's the chance for us to do a little bit more digging of going deeper. I'm going to close with a story that I found, and I love this story. It's from Spiritual Literacy. And that book is by Frederick and Marianne Broussard. And this story is something that I think of often, because many of us know we have a mission here. Many of us know that we have something that we are here to do. And one of the questions that I continually ask myself is, what is my work here to do? What is mine to do? So this story tells me how I need to take that extra step. And it goes like this. There was a woman who wanted peace in the world and peace in her heart and all sorts of good things, but she was very frustrated. The world seemed to be falling apart. She would read the papers and get depressed. Or in today's terms, she would watch online or watch the news and get depressed. One day she decided to go shopping. And she went to a mall and she just picked a store at random. She walked in and was surprised to see Jesus behind the counter. And so she went up to him, because he looked just like the picture she'd seen, and she walked up and she got up the nerve and she said, "Excuse me, are you Jesus?" And he said, yes, I am. "Do you work here?" she said. "No," Jesus said, "I own the store." "Oh, well, what are you selling here?" He says, "Just about anything." He says, "What do you want?" And she says, "Well, I don't really know." He says, "Look, just take the basket, go up and down the aisles, make your list, and see what it is that you want, and then come back and we'll see what we can do for you." So she did just that. She walked up and down the aisles. There was peace on earth. There was no more war. There was no poverty, no hunger. There was peace in families. There was no more drugs. There was harmony. There was clean air, careful use of resources. She wrote furiously, "Oh my gosh, yes, I definitely want that. Oh my goodness, I've been looking for that." So by the time she got back to the counter, she had a really long list. She hands it over to Jesus, and Jesus takes a look at it. He goes, "Okay, no problem." He leans down behind the counter and he comes back up and he starts laying out packets. She says, "Well, what are these?" He says, "They're seed packets." "Seed packets?" She says, "You mean I don't get the finished product?" He said, "No, this is a place of dreams. You come and see what it looks like, and I give you the seeds. You plant the seeds, you nurture them, you help them grow, and someone else reaps the benefits." "Oh," she said, and she left the store without buying anything. That's a sad, sad story. If most of us are getting these divine urges and these wonderful hints of guidance, and then we go, "Wait a minute, you mean I have work I have to do with this? There's something that I have to create. There's something that I have to nurture." And yes, that's the work that we're here to do. That's what our story is to be. Our story is full of, this is mine to do at this moment in my life. It may not be the rest of my life, but it's what's mine to do now. Maybe that could be as simple as raising a child or even a grandchild. It could be planting a garden. It could just be smiling at the grocery clerk who's behind the glass and who's there on the front lines for us and saying, "Thank you. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for doing this. Whatever is ours to do, let's do it. Let's write a whole new story around what it is that I am here to do. And if something shows up in our life that looks like a truckload of dung, get the shovel out and let's move to plant those seeds of peace and joy and compassion, kindness, humility, all of that moves us to a place of deeper understanding and a deepening of that wonderful, rich inner life. The life that we are meant to do. We are modern mystics, folks. We are modern mystics. And back in the day, they used to go off to a monastery where their needs were taken care of and they didn't have to worry about things. Most of us don't have that option these days. We get to be modern mystics with a job, with a family, with responsibilities. And it's much more difficult to build an interior life when you're in the midst of all of that. I'll be the first to admit that. And yet that's what we have decided. Those of us who are on this path have chosen to live a life and to be a modern mystic, to be a light in this world, no matter what that means and how we show up. That's what we're here to do. So this week, how will your story be written? How will you rewrite maybe a story that you've been carrying around for a long time? How will you have a whole new ending that will allow you the chance to grow into that which you came here to be? That's where the juice is. That's what we're here to do. And so let's take that into prayer. I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Let's take a deep breath in. We've just processed a lot of information. Let it out. Father, Mother God, we're just so grateful for the opportunity to be a spiritual presence in this world, to be a light, to be kindness, to be compassion, to be clarity and focus and vision, to be all those things that the world is hungering and longing for, to be a spiritual leader in whatever form that shows up. Whether we sell insurance or we're firefighters or we're nurses or whatever, that is the calling that is allowing us to be this light. And so I know that each one of us has had an awakening today. And I call forth whatever guidance we might have been missing before. I know it is coming up full and fresh and available right now for each and every person listening to this prayer. I just give great thanks that we not only are listening to that guidance, but we are acting upon it. And so it's not something we're going to put off to tomorrow. It's something we're going to do today. It's something that we are saying, yeah, yes, thank you, God, yes to. And that we absolutely are in accordance with the divine plan that is ours. And so I just say, thank you, Spirit, for all the wonderful revelations that have happened during this time together today. Thank you for the opportunity to step up and to say yes to all that life has to offer. I gratefully release this prayer, knowing that as I have declared these words, it is already done. Done in the mind of God, the only place anything ever happens, it is done. We say yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Spirit. We let it be so. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. So now is our time of blessing, the time that we get to show our support for our Unity community. I invite you to pick up your phone if you've got it available. Click onto unityofcharlotte.org, and you'll be able to see a chance to, there's a donate button, and that allows you to help us continue the work that we have here, the most important work of being the light, the beacon on the hill to the Charlotte community and beyond. You also can mail us a check at, I guess I can move, yes, there we go. There's the address right there, Unity of Charlotte, 401 East Arrowwood Road, Charlotte, 28217. And, or you can go onto your computer and you can make your offering online just like you would on your phone. So we have secure and convenient ways for you to give to us. We're grateful for your continued support throughout this. Obviously, this has been a disrupt in our pattern of being able to have people here in service every week. So your donation is greatly appreciated as we go through this time. So I'll invite you to hold whether you're planning to share in your hands, a check or your phone, whatever works for you, or just hold your hands to your heart. And let's say our prosperity blessing together. Here it is. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And we are blessed to have Lawrence sing another wonderful Karen Drucker song.
Thank you, Reverend Sally. That was a wonderful message. We are all blessings to the world. I am a blessing to the world. To the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. The heart, the hands, spirit on earth, and who we are, and all we do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are, and all we do is a blessing to the world. We are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are, and all we do is a blessing to the world. Oh, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are, and all we do is a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing, you're a blessing, we're a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing, you're a blessing, we're a blessing to the world. The heart, the hand, oh, the voice, oh, you are, what you do to the world. We're a blessing to the world. Blessing, blessing.
Thank you, Lawrence. That fit beautifully. I really appreciate you wrapping up our wonderful morning together. And so we're going to close with our prayer for protection. Let me see. I'm sure we have there we go. So let's say that together, shall we? The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.